We've been talking quite a bit over the last few months over this question of whether a sitting president can be indicted. And the reason that this is a relevant question is because of our current president. We know that our current president directed his attorney, Michael Cohen, to commit multiple felonies. Michael Cohen, by the way, being sentenced right now as we are recording the show. We'll have news about that for you tomorrow. We are still waiting to find out what degree of illegal coordination with a foreign power took place during the 2016 election. We're waiting to figure out what is Robert Mueller aware of when it comes to obstruction of justice and witness tampering. So we may at some point go from the theoretical to the practical in having to figure out, can a sitting president be indicted, or would a sitting president have to be impeached first before indictments could follow, if indeed that president wasn't pardoned preemptively? This is all in the realm of opinion, right? There is no law which says you can indict a sitting president. There is no constitutional provision which would prevent the indictment of a sitting president. It's not been tested whether you can indict a sitting president, but we've heard lots of serious legal opinions over the last 6 months which say you wouldn't be able to do it. We have now a contrasting opinion, which I'm going to present to you today, and it's from Laurence Tribe, who's a legal scholar and a professor at Harvard Law School here in the Boston area, who simply disagrees with the assessment that you can indict a sitting president. He says, oh yeah, a sitting president can be prosecuted, no problem, and in fact, it's part of how the framers of the Constitution wanted a president who is not immune from consequences if they do the wrong thing. Tribe wrote an op-ed piece in the Boston Globe this week where he simply says, okay, the Justice Department might have a sort of de facto policy where they would not indict a sitting president. But such a policy, Tribe argues, would be unconstitutional. And Tribe actually points out specifically that the strategy predicted by conservative columnist Jennifer Rubin earlier this week is likely to be exactly why indictment of a sitting president is possible. Rubin suggested, and we did this clip for you earlier in the week, that Donald Trump would resign 10 minutes before the next Democratic president would be inaugurated. That could be in 2021, that could be in 2025, so that Mike Pence would be president for those last 10 minutes of Trump's term and would issue a preemptive pardon, making it so that Donald Trump could not be indicted after he leaves the White House. We know that the framers of the Constitution took very seriously that we shouldn't have a king in the United States and that there have to be ways to deal with a potentially corrupt or criminal person becoming president of the United States. So thus, leaving presidents free to sort of cash in these get out of jail free cards with preemptive resignation and pardoning by their vice presidents, who could be just as corrupt as they are. We don't know yet when it comes to Mike Pence, but the vice president could be just as corrupt as the president. It seems unimaginable as what the framers would want, that they would want such a system where a president can effectively make themselves not vulnerable to any consequences to their actions. The point that Tribe makes in the op-ed, which I encourage you to read yourself, is that no matter what your view is on why you can't indict a sitting president, that it would be unconstitutional. If the Justice Department has a policy that says we don't indict sitting presidents, Tribe argues that would be unconstitutional. It definitely doesn't seem that such a formal policy exists. But what if the president can always preemptively have themselves pardoned by the VP? That also would be unconstitutional if indeed there is no other way to make or to subject a president to consequences, Tribe argues. Still, for now, this is in the realm of the theoretical, but it's getting closer and closer to becoming a real issue rather than merely a theoretical one. Closer than it's been in a very long time in American history, and we may well see it tested in the coming years. The entire perspective of Laurence Tribe and those who, by the way, when I've mentioned that the overwhelming majority of legal opinions I've read say you can't indict a sitting president, people write to me and they say, no, David, that's not accurate. Their view is effectively, we have a president and not a king. Any system which truly puts the president off limits from consequences is what we would see in a theocracy or a dictatorship, not the type of government that the framers established. The problem with this entire argument, Pat, is that it does sort of depend on constitutional interpretation and inferring what the framers had in mind. That's a minefield when it comes to something this serious.
Well, I certainly hope that if this is litigated, they would find that you can indeed indict a sitting president. And I'm not just saying that because Trump is president or because a Republican's president. I just buy into this idea that no person should be above the law, and that includes the president. And how bad would it be for the country if this goes to the Supreme Court and they vote completely on party lines? Like all 5 conservative justices say that you can't indict a sitting president and the 4 liberals say that you can. I think that would be really bad for the country.
Once again, for everybody who said Supreme Court doesn't matter, Trump versus Hillary doesn't matter, it's all basically going to be the same. Yeah, we're quickly seeing that that's not the case. One last thing on this. I got a question in the email from a viewer who said, if Trump can be indicted and is indicted and goes to prison, but the Senate, still controlled by Republicans, won't vote to remove him after the House files articles of impeachment, could we have a president running the country from prison? In theory, you could. Realistically, you would think that the cabinet would determine, okay, the president can't carry out their duties from prison, and that the cabinet would use the 25th Amendment to remove Trump in that case. Would Betsy DeVos actually cast that vote, though, in that case? I hope so, although I don't really know.